the Executive Director of Cool Choices. I'm delighted you joined us today to talk about how we successfully broadened kind of the conversation in Waukesha County as a way to think about broadening your own conversations around sustainability. As a little bit of background here, Cool Choices is a nonprofit. We partner with specific companies and whole communities to inspire people to adopt sustainable practices in their personal and professional lives in an aim to really create communities where sustainability is the new normal. And the primary way we accomplish that is through a game-based program we've developed. So we go into a company, for example, we customize the platform to their specific priorities, and then we play a game largely, where people sign up, they join teams, and over the course of 6 weeks, they get points for their sustainable practices, they can win prizes, they can trash talk, kind of all the things you would expect to happen in a competition. The two overlaying kind of really important things that happen, though, is that people are in a transparent system. So it's suddenly really clear to them that other people are also doing sustainable things, which is a really powerful thing from a behavioral perspective. And because this is done in the spirit of competition, we get all kinds of conversation. We get people talking to each other about what they're doing, the new things they're doing, surprised about some of the things that certain people have always been doing. In our program, you get points for new habits as well as existing habits. So, you know, there's this magical conversation that goes on that's pretty powerful. So that's kind of the context we come to this. So we work very often with sustainability managers or green teams. And, you know, one of the challenges we often hear is that folks feel like they're having a conversation with themselves. You know, they're preaching to the choir. They're having, if it's inside a company, they're soliciting volunteers and the same 8 people always volunteer. At a community scale, it's the same folks who always come to the meetings, who are enthusiastic, but there's a bigger group that you're not reaching. And so this sense that we're not reaching the bigger group we need to reach. And, you know, this is a theme right now in a lot of places you see talk about this about how each of our social media feeds is really this bubble we live in, and politically we're existing in different news spheres. The issue is, though, really important for sustainability professionals. So if you're working for an organization where you have really aggressive goals, you're trying to become net zero emissions, or you're trying to cut your water usage in half by some date certain, you need everyone engaged in accomplishing that objective. And so reaching the people who agree with the message the way you're delivering it today isn't good enough. You really need to figure out how you engage everyone. How do you expand that conversation to include a whole lot of people who aren't currently interested in the conversation you're having, or don't seem to be interested? And so that's the thing we really want to talk about today. And it seemed like the most effective way to talk about that was to tell you a story about Waukesha County, where we did this successfully, where we expanded a conversation. So for those of you who aren't lucky enough to live in Wisconsin, let me give you a little bit of a geography lesson. This is Waukesha County. To the east of the county is the city of Milwaukee. Over here is Lake Michigan. To the west of Waukesha County, further over this direction, is Madison, the state capital. Waukesha County is very much a suburban county of Milwaukee, but it's also a county with a lot of, there's a significant amount of industry there, major businesses. It is USA Today during the 2016 election called Waukesha County the reddest county in the United States. Certainly the political mood in the county is very pro-business, is skeptical of government interference, certainly skeptical of regulation. So the environment there is one that is kind of, I would say, has a kind of deeply conservative ethos. So because I like challenges, we were really interested in could we implement a Cool Choices program in Waukesha County? Could we make that work? And I want to pause here and kind of get your thoughts. So knowing what you know now about Waukesha County, I want to hear from you what benefit might you sort of highlight first in the place I've described as a way to get engagement in this place? What do you think might cause people to be interested in this conversation in Waukesha County? I'll give you a second there to vote. Okay, it looks like that's about the, oh, people are still voting. Give you one more second to vote. I want to cut people off there. Okay, it looks like we had a very high level of voting there. So let me show you what those results were. So about 2/3 of you said you would probably lead with a saving money kind of message, and about 1/3 engaging employees. So what we did to understand Waukesha County is I had a contact in the county, a woman who leads a local marketing communications company Lisa is active in the sustainability community, but I knew she was also active in the chamber and other business communities within the county. And so I had a conversation with Lisa where I said, we have this opportunity to do a community scale program. I'm interested in figuring out if Waukesha would be a good place to do it. Talk to me about the hot issues in Waukesha County from a business perspective. And what Lisa told me, let me get rid of that there, was that the business community in Waukesha was very concerned about workforce issues, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. I went into the conversation thinking, like the bulk of you, this is going to be a conversation about saving money. These are good Wisconsin businesses. If they see evidence that there's waste in their operations, they're going to want to address that waste. But it turns out there was another challenge for them. Just go back to the map here for a second. So it turns out Waukesha County has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state of Wisconsin. And part of what is happening in Waukesha County is that when young people graduate from high school, they're very often leaving the county to pursue higher education or training, and they're not necessarily coming back. There's an aging workforce, so while they're concerned about filling jobs today, business leaders are even more concerned about how they're going to fill jobs tomorrow. And indeed, what Lisa said to me is when business leaders come together, we're always looking at those statistics and talking about how we're going to address these issues forward. Well, that was pretty interesting news to me because there's, of course, and if you follow our webinars, you know that there's a whole body of literature around how millennials want purpose-driven work, how 8 and 10 millennials want to work for an organization that gives them an opportunity to be part of environmental efforts, that increasingly we're seeing evidence that MBA graduates will turn down opportunities with organizations that don't have a corporate sustainability plan. So there was a lot of fodder here for a conversation. So Lisa and I chatted, and she agreed to set up a meeting with some of those business leaders to talk about this potential opportunity. I went to the opportunity and really framed it in a workforce engagement way, saying, smart businesses are thinking about how they can engage their employees around sustainability because it not only addresses operating costs, but it improves recruitment and retention. And those were issues that were really important to those business leaders in the room. So we talked about the opportunity. We essentially, excuse me, I have a bit of a lingering cough this week. We had an opportunity with some grant funding from a foundation to do a community scale program somewhere. And I said to those business leaders, we'd be really interested in doing this here if you led the program. And we had a good conversation about what that meant. And ultimately, we developed a partnership where these local entities led the program in their county. And our partners, we had 7 kind of fundamental partners. The Workforce Development Center and Tri-County Board, the marketing firm Evolution Marketing that brought us to the table, and 4 chambers of commerce. Oconomowoc, who was at that very first meeting, and chambers they helped us recruit then. And part of our strategy to broaden the tent, to engage people who weren't engaged previously, was to really make sure that these folks led the conversation in the county. So that meant that Oconomowoc, we provided them with talking points, but the chamber in Oconomowoc went to its members and said, you're a member of the Oconomowoc Chamber, here's this opportunity for you that we're bringing to you. So they were the trusted messenger, and really we gave them talking points and they edited those however it made sense to them to edit it to speak effectively to their audiences. So each of these entities reached out to folks and helped us kind of build then a group of businesses who were interested in participating in the program. And then in a similar way, we provided the businesses with templates so that they could recruit individuals to be participants in this county-wide program. And so really, I think we like the image of a ripple effect there. We've got the chambers recruiting businesses who are recruiting individuals to make this bigger and bigger impact across the community. And so in the fall of 2017, we implemented a community scale program where more than 500 people in Waukesha County, over the course of 6 weeks, reported sustainable practices, earned points, celebrated accomplishments with others across the county. Which all sounds, good. Now I want to kind of talk about some of the data pieces to give you a little bit of a sense of how we know that was a broad group of people. And maybe as background here, we do a baseline survey before we start a program, and we do a post-program survey after the program ends to get participant insights. From the post-program survey, I'll start with this piece. We ask people at the end, so why did you play? And I think there's a couple of interesting things here. And we asked them this on a scale of not at all influential to very influential. The number one reason people said that motivated them to play was the potential to save money. And certainly the communications we provide to businesses are, along the lines of, there's this program opportunity. If you sign up, you'll probably learn some new ways to save money. You'll have some fun. You might win a prize, and you'll get to, beat teams from other organizations, kind of thing. Sorry about that. The number 2 reason, going back to that employee engagement thing, was people wanted to support their organization's sustainability goals. That's really good news for these businesses, that a bunch of people, one of the reasons they had for signing up was they wanted to be part of the solution. Good evidence that that was a good thing for folks to do. Notice way at the bottom is the stuff like I wanted to win a gift card. That's usually, that's pretty consistent with what we see. People, by the end of a program, it's not about winning a prize. It's about what they're accomplishing in their lives, kind of thing, what the savings they're getting, that satisfaction piece. So the point, though, is to make this a diverse group. You could see that these could be the motives for a group that was already the green folks. Maybe there were 500 really green people in Waukesha County. There probably are 500 really green people. Were those the only people who played? How do I know that? So now I want you to look at some data from the baseline survey. So one of the things we ask participants on the baseline survey is, on a scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree, a series of questions, including sustainability is important to me. And what you see here is a little over 8 in 10 participants said, yes, sustainability is important to me. Now, we're not firmly defining sustainability. It can mean different things to different people. And after all, this is in the course of someone signing up for a thing that's been called a sustainability program. Makes some sense that they're largely in the agree category. We wanted to really understand what did that mean from maybe more clearly political perspective. So we asked a second question in Waukesha County specific to climate change. We asked I worry that our use of fossil fuels contributes to harmful changes in the climate. And what you see here is now it's about 6 in 10 participants who agree with that statement. A quarter of them are neutral, and we've got a chunk of folks who strongly disagree with that statement. So that there is more of a mix here, and I would say this is pretty typical of our programs because we're very often leading with a saving money message to participants. We get a better mix of folks. Earlier I noted that in our program, you can earn points for new actions you take as well as ongoing behaviors that save energy or save water. We're able to distinguish those two things from each other because we kind of offer people the same points either way, but we're asking them questions about, is this a new thing or not? So one of the things we were able to do here is look at this population of people who were not concerned about climate compared to the people who were concerned about climate and see if their savings varied. And what we saw was pretty interesting. So the folks who said they were concerned about climate change, about a quarter of their actions were new things they were doing. So we were getting them to adopt new practices that yielded energy savings, water savings, emission savings, gasoline, etc. For the folks who were not concerned, that number was higher. It was more like a third of their actions were new. This is a really significant thing to think about as a sustainability professional. That when you broaden that tent, when you bring in people who haven't been in this conversation before, the savings potential from them can be higher because they haven't been part of all those past conversations about best practices relative to driving habits or water reduction habits or whatever kind of thing. So you're broadening that in pretty significant ways. So that's sort of the one fundamental reason why you want to broaden the tent is there are savings to capture there and sometimes deeper savings to capture than you're getting with the choir. The other thing is, though, you are aiming to broaden that conversation because you need this kind of broader shared value around being more efficient, about reducing emissions to accomplish your goals. And let's kind of look at how attitudes change over time. So remember, we asked that question on the baseline survey about sustainability is important to me. And a little over 8 in 10 of them agreed. Well, we asked the same question again on the post-program survey, and we see this nice increase. When we ask that question, though, we don't just ask it about individuals. We also ask, well, what do you think about the people around you? So we have them rate that same thing relative to their household, their friends, their extended family, coworkers, and leadership at their organization. And what you see here is this really strong trend where over the course of participating in cool choices, the perception that sustainability matters increases across all of these groups, and increases pretty dramatically in some spots. So we've got here that 40% of people in the baseline survey thought that sustainability was important to their friends, and that becomes 65% in the post-program survey. Now, part of the reason why we think these numbers move is because people are having conversations with each other. And again, something we try to track pretty closely. So we ask people in both the baseline and the post-program survey how often they're talking to others about sustainability. And here I have, so before the program, and these are participants who reported at least weekly conversations. So this includes people who said they talk daily or multiple times a week. And part of what's really exciting here is across 3 of these groups, coworkers, extended family, and friends, the percentage of people saying they're having those conversations at least weekly more than doubles. There's a lot more volume here. And, you know, those conversations might be, hey, I learned this, that you can save money driving by not jackrabbit starting and stopping. Did you know this? Blah, blah, blah. It might be, guess what we're doing at home? We're part of this competition, and it means we're spending more time outside and not watching as much TV. And, you know, there's lots of ways that conversation might happen. The point is it's happening. And people are, through those conversations, at least in part, they're discovering that these others in their community share their values around sustainability, which is pretty powerful. So kind of there to just, so in a big aggregate way, those 500 people participated in Cool Choices. They logged more than 30,000 sustainable practices over the course of the 6-week program. Those range from turning off the water when they brush their teeth to unplugging and recycling a second refrigerator in the garage. So big one-time actions, small habitual actions, all in there. One of the things we give people points for is suggesting ideas about how their organization can reduce fleet costs or energy costs. And in Waukesha County, we also solicited ideas about how communities could help these individuals do more to save energy, to save water, to live sustainably. And so in total, we got 1,600 plus ideas. About 800 of those were specific to what communities could do. I gave you just kind of a little sampling here of the kinds of things that people identified. Relative to suggestions, it's less important that these are what I would call kind of rocket science, you know, no one ever thought of that ever before. What's important is people in the community, employees that employers want to retain, are saying, hey, it would be great if this particular street had a sidewalk so it was safer for us. Hey, it would be great if we had recycling bins in this park. Made these generic, but in the suggestions, they tend to be very specific to particular streets and parks and opportunities. So one of the next things we're doing in Waukesha County is we're working with local groups to continue this conversation, to take these ideas back to the business communities, to those business leaders we had the first conversation with, and really talk about, well, so how do these communities take these initiatives forward? We now have agreement that sustainability is good for Waukesha County, and it's good for it in multiple ways. What are the projects or policies or initiatives that can help us kind of cement those good things in the county? And so we take a place that on paper looks perhaps a little inhospitable to sustainability, and we achieve emission reductions, and we want a bigger conversation about sustainability and the value of sustainability as a shared value across that community. And that's really the kind of image I want you to walk away with today from this webinar? How do you do that? How do you broaden that conversation so that other people see the value from their perspective there, and then really accelerate your own accomplishments because you've got that bigger group mobilized to act on sustainability? So with that, I want to kind of open things up for discussion. So those of you familiar with GoToWebinar kind of know how this works. You've got that little sidebar. It might be closed. If you hit the orange arrow, it will open, and you can type in a question for me. I'm also putting my email here because sometimes things occur to you later. But if there are questions right now, I am happy to address those. Oh, terrific. This, because I didn't talk about this enough. Asking so ultimately how to talk about climate change in the program. And the answer is we didn't. So there's kind of an increasing body of communications literature about how, particularly in more conservative communities, climate change can be a really divisive issue. I saw an expert recently cite that positions on climate change are a stronger predictor of political party than positions on abortion. Just a really strong partisan issue. We focus on the local benefits of sustainable practices, the benefits to the businesses, the benefits to the individuals. Now, at the end of the day, when we talk about results, we talk about electricity saved and gasoline saved and water saved and the resulting reductions in carbon emissions, but we're not leading with a climate message because that's not going to motivate this broader tent of people to action. So we're really trying to start with a message that motivates the broader tent, and then kind of cite as an accomplishment, well, you're also addressing climate change. We want to acknowledge that's a real accomplishment. We're not discounting how important that is. That is our mission. But we're not requiring everyone to adopt our belief system in order to participate and make significant changes in their own lives. Kind of letting that be a little bit broader of a conversation there. So hopefully that helps with that. Are there other questions? Talk a little bit more about the kinds of businesses that participated. You know, it was interesting in Waukesha County. It was a tremendous range. We had some of the larger employers in the county participating. Maybe one of the examples I would call out is Batteries Plus Bulbs. So an organization that runs stores that sell batteries, but also LED light bulbs, some energy-saving technologies kind of thing, headquartered in Waukesha County, that had a really strong participation across their corporate headquarters and some of their other facilities. And then we had some really small organizations, down to a handful of employees. For the chambers in particular, one of the advantages of this community scale program was it created an opportunity for smaller businesses to use a platform like ours when that's not something they often had access to. So that was a cool thing. I am cognizant of the time, and it looks like it is 12:30, and I always want to get folks back to their busy lives as fast as we can. So I'm going to close things there. You will